Welcome back. So in the previous video, we created our first virtual machine inside of our VirtualBox. Now it is time that we install our Kali Linux operating system inside of this machine. But to be able to do that, we want to change some settings inside of this machine first, before we actually start it. So to access the settings of a virtual machine, we can select the virtual machine inside of our VirtualBox manager and click on Settings. Now, to even be able to install the Kali Linux operating system, we must first add it to this machine, right? And to do that inside of VirtualBox, we must navigate to the storage settings, and under the controller IDE, we want to click on this add icon. And if you didn't see it really well, it just looks like a disk with a plus. Pretty much click on it, and you want to click on this add button right here. Once you do that, you want to navigate to wherever you have your ISO image saved or your Kali Linux image saved. For me, it's on desktop, and you want to double click it. Then you want to select it right here in this small window, and you want to click on choose. Now under the controller IDE, you will have your Kali Linux image and you will have this empty image. Now this empty image we don't really need, so we can just right click it and remove attachment, and we will be left with just Kali Linux 2021.1 version. Okay, another thing that we want to do inside of the settings is we want to navigate to the network settings, and we want to change the NAT to bridged adapter. Now, if you want to read more about these adapters inside of VirtualBox, you can check out our networking PDF file that we created for this course, and it has an explanation on all of these adapters right here and why we use this one. In short words, we use bridged adapter because it allows our DHCP from our network to give an IP address to our Kali Linux virtual machine. And in this case, our Kali Linux virtual machine will be viewed as another device on our network. It will be able to communicate with all the other devices inside of our network, with our router, with a laptop that you might have connected, with your mobile device. But if you have it under NAT, which is by default, it won't be able to do that. So let's just change it to bridged adapter, and under here you want to select the adapter name or the adapter that you want to use. Now, what I found from personal experience is that if you go with cable connection, it most likely will always work. Now, wireless adapters know to create problems sometimes, and they might need some additional drivers installation in order to run. So if you're able to, try going with cable or wired connection. Okay, awesome. These are the two settings that we wanted to change. Once we do that, we can click on OK, and right now we are ready to start our virtual machine. To do that, we want to click on this start arrow, and it will run our virtual machine. Or it will start the installation process of Kali Linux. Remember, it's an operating system, so it must be installed first. Here is the window of our virtual machine, and you will notice if you try to enlarge it, it will pretty much stay the same size. It will have this white surrounding it, but don't worry, it will not stay like this forever. It will only stay like this during the installation. So what we want to do is we want to choose the graphical install right here in this menu. You can also go with the install, but graphical install looks a little bit better. Let's click here, enter. And by the way, your mouse will not work inside of the virtual machine yet during the installation, so you must navigate with your keyboard inside of the installation process. Let's wait for the next step. And here it is. We want to select the language to be English for me. You can choose whichever language you want. The location, it doesn't really matter. I will just select United States, and the configuration of the keyboard. You can also choose whatever you like right here. I'm going to go with American English and click on next. And this installation process will actually take about an hour to finish. So of course this is not going to be an hour-long video, so I'm just going to skip through some longer parts of installation, and I'm just going to cover the steps where we actually have to choose something. I will fast forward the installation so you don't have to sit through a 1-hour video. Okay, so let's wait for the next step. And here is the next thing that comes up, which is configuring the network. So it asks us, please enter the host name for this system. You can type here also anything that you want. I'm just going to type here Kali, because we're installing Kali Linux. Press enter. And the next thing that it asks is the domain name. Here, for the purposes of the course, we don't need to set anything. We can just leave it empty and we can press enter to continue. Now, a user account must be created. So here, you create the full name for the user. For the purposes of this course, I'm just going to call it Mr. Hacker. Click on continue, and the username for the account that you will use to log in to Kali Linux. The account name will also be Mr. Hacker for me. For you, choose anything that you like. Just make sure that you remember it after the installation. And press enter, and now we need to set the password for the user. Here you type the password, whatever you like, and here you confirm the password. Awesome. Once you do that, you also have an option to show password in clear. I don't really need that, so I'm just going to go on continue. And you can see sometimes mouse actually works, but sometimes it doesn't. So I'm just going to go and navigate again with my keyboard and select the time zone that I'm at. Since I'm at Eastern time zone, I'm going to select Eastern. You select whichever you want, and it will continue with the installation. Let's wait for the next step. And here it is, partitioning disks. Now this might be a little bit harder for you to understand in case you're first time running Linux. Nonetheless, here we want to go with the guided use entire disk. We don't want to go any other option, and here we want to select our own hard disk that we created. So you will probably have only one option here. Just select that one and click enter. And at this part, we want to go with all files in one partition, as it says it's recommended for new users. For those of you that ran Linux before, you might also be familiar with /home, /var, /tmp, and these are just some directories that we get inside of Linux. Picture them as just some already made folders that Linux system gives us after the installation. We don't want to separate any of these. Let's pretend that we don't know anything about this, so we're just going to go with the recommended settings that says all files in one partition and click enter. It will ask us finish partitioning and write changes to disk. We want to click enter. And here it asks us for the confirmation, where we want to click yes, so change from no to yes, and click enter. And this will pretty much start the installation process of your Kali Linux. Now there will be a couple of more questions during the installation, so I'm just going to fast forward to the next question. Okay, so after a couple of minutes we get this window prompted, so it asks us to customize our own desktop with different settings. So here, what we want to do is we want to select all of these that are checked by default, which is desktop environment, XFCE, and collection of tools. However, we also want to check this large option right here. This means that it will also install some additional tools inside of our Kali Linux machine. And the more tools, the better. We never know when we're going to use some of these tools, so let's just go and select large and we can proceed with the installation. This next part will take some time to finish. It will take around 30 to 40 minutes to finish, so just sit back, grab something to drink, and I will see you guys when the next question pops up. Okay, so here's the next question. And this isn't really that important to us. It would be more important if we were to install Kali Linux as a main operating system and not as a virtual machine. But let's read it nonetheless. As it says, it seems that this is the new installation is the only operating system on this computer. If so, it should be safe to install the grub bootloader to your primary drive. Warning, if your computer has another operating system that the installer failed to detect, this will make that operating system temporarily unbootable, though grub can be manually configured later to boot it. Now here we want to select yes, because our virtual machine doesn't have any other operating system running besides Kali Linux. So let's select yes right here and let's click on continue. Under here we want to select this /dev/sda and we want to click on continue. And this will pretty much finish our installation. It will take a couple more minutes for this to end, and then we will have a working Kali Linux virtual machine. And here is the last question. It says installation is complete, so it is time to boot into your new system. Make sure to remove any installation media so that you boot into the new system rather than restarting the installation. Since we don't have any installation media, we can just click on continue without unplugging anything or removing anything, and our installation is complete. Now our virtual machine will reboot and we will be able to use our Kali Linux virtual machine. Let's wait for a couple of seconds for our login screen to pop out. And here is our login screen. Our Kali Linux machine is working perfectly. Awesome. Now, here we want to type in the username that we created during the installation, as well as the password that we set during the installation. So I'm just going to go with Mr. Hacker, because that is what I set, and I will type here the password for Mr. Hacker account. This will open our desktop environment. In case you're also stuck like this with a smaller screen, in order to make your machine full screen, you can just lower the screen and enlarge it once again, and this will actually fix the issue in 90% of cases. And now we can see the Kali Linux desktop environment. As I mentioned, and as we already know by now, this is a Linux system. So if you're not familiar with the Linux system and the Linux terminal, command lines, and commands that we will use, make sure that you check out the bonus section of the course where we actually cover Linux basics, where we teach the basic commands, where we teach how we can use Linux terminal in order to execute what we want. Nonetheless, if you are familiar with Linux and with Linux terminal, feel free to proceed with the course. We made our virtual hacking machine, and the next thing that we want to do is we want to create a virtual machine that we will use to attack. Okay, awesome. We finished a big part of setting up our virtual lab, and I will see you guys in the next video.